Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Able Voices podcast. I'm Dr. Rhoda Bernard, founding managing director of the Berkeley Institute for Accessible Arts Education and the assistant chair of the music education department at Berkeley College of Music. And I am proud to present this podcast featuring disabled artists and arts educators. We are inviting artists with disabilities to be guest hosts for the Able Voices podcast. Today's guest host is Rivky Grossman. Rivky is a New York City-based singer-songwriter, recipient of the New York Arts Grant, has been nominated for the IMEA Awards, and has been selected for the New York Musical Theater's top female finalists in 2022. Her song, Hear Me Honey, was produced by Grammy-winning Amy Lee of Evanescence. Rivky's music has appeared on PBS's Mysteries of Mental Illness. Her career jump-started composing for Off-Broadway, meeting her friend and cellist Brian Saunders, releasing their first album, inviting them to the Kennedy Center, and stages featuring Suzanne Vega. Other projects include co-creating a musical currently in development with playwright Vincent Grappelli. Rivky currently hosts Melody Left Behind, celebrating performers living with schizophrenia, psychosis, autism, and those who experience the stage just a little differently, pushing the boundary to welcome more neurodiverse inclusion on mainstream music stages, which often doesn't exist for every unique artist.
Hey there, everyone. Welcome to the Able Voices podcast. I'm your guest host today, and my name is Rivky. My pronouns are she, they. I'm queer, non-binary, light-skinned, with auburn short hair, and I'm beautifully flabby around my tummy and hips. Thanks so much for joining us as we continue to celebrate and spotlight disabled artists. I'm a disabled artist myself, and I'll be speaking with disabled artists. Today on our segment, I'll be introducing you to Dr. Cynthia George, also referred to as Dr. Cyn. So to give you a little background here, Dr. Cyn is an award-winning artist, educator, and evaluator with 20 years experience working in prevention science. They currently serve as an associate professor of social work at Tennessee State University in Nashville, Tennessee, where they teach courses on research and public policy. They also perform as Dr. CynCorrigible with their punk band named Dr. Cyn and the Graduates Rise. Their debut album, Math is Hard, received academic peer review in 2017 from the Working Class Studies Association, and Dr. Cyn was honored with an International Safety Media Award at the 2022 World Safety Conference for their COVID safety campaign, integrating social work theory and punk music through their song, Quarantine, Not Quarantined. Dr. Cyn just released a new album titled Canary, featuring some of Nashville's top indie artists. Dr. Cyn, welcome to our show. We're so glad to have you here today.
Hello, I am so happy to be here.
So tell us a bit about how you got your start. How did you get to where you are today?
Yes, first I'll say I am 6 foot tall. I have a blonde mohawk. I am a white woman with blue eyes, non-binary, she, they pronouns. And I was born a tiny little baby on Nashville's historic rock block in the old Baptist Hospital. If anyone knows that, it's on Elliston Place, currently being bought out, but developed. But it was a traumatic birth, and I almost died. I was rushed to Vanderbilt University, where there was a specialized team that actually was able to save me. But I spent the first 6 weeks of my life in an incubator. And so I guess I kind of had a rough start, but I've been fighting since the day I was born, and I continue to do that. It was a low-income family in the north side of Nashville. We didn't really have a lot. My family, we moved around a lot. My father, he attempted suicide a lot. My mother didn't really have a lot of skills. We really went through a lot, you know. But I was always gifted, and I made it through, you know. But here I am. I made it.
Well, welcome. Yes.
Thanks.
That sounds like a story. Woof. So yeah, the name Dr. CynCorrigible is really interesting. I bet there's some backstory about that. Like, did it come from somewhere or?
Yes, it
Yeah.
actually is kind of a dirty story. And there's this venue in Nashville. It's a classic venue called Mercy Lounge. It's actually closed down now, which is heartbreaking because I miss it.
Mm.
But there was a show there one night, and I get bored sometimes. But I was bored, and so this person I was dating, I'd convinced them to sneak away and go make out. And so they had said, "Oh, Sin, you're incorrigible, CynCorrigible," and it made me laugh, and and it really fits, and so it kind of stuck, and then I started using CynCorrigible as my World of Warcraft gaming name, and
Oh, nice.
right, I had a level 47 rogue. I had to quit playing and return to the real world, but I miss you, guild. Hello. And then on social media, I would use it on social media, and so then it just kind of stuck. And so then when it came time for me to be in a band, right, I needed a moniker to use
Mhm.
for this fearless persona. And so I drew upon CynCorrigible that was bold enough to abandon a show to go make out and
Yeah.
murder creatures by stabbing them in the dark like a rogue villain, and do all of the things that Incorrigible had done over the years as my avatar. And of course, Doctor Incorrigible I chose because that also covers me under my practice insurance, because anything I do under my credential is covered under my practice insurance. And so and I do count my work as scholarly products, right? Like my songs, I do consider them evidence-based advice on how to live
Mm,
your life and be an academic, and I really do reflect on the world, and they are confessional poems, and my, and so I consider
yeah,
them evidence-based advice, and
yeah.
it counts as my promotion and tenure. And I do have academic awards for my songs, and so it's legitimate that it's covered under my practice
That's amazing.
insurance, right? And so that's where Dr. Incorrigible comes from.
I love it. Yeah, I mean, it almost sounds like maybe that is, in fact, your real name over the other one, right? Like it's
Well,
just so much more like authentic in your life.
I actually have the paperwork filled out to legally change my name to
Oh,
Dr. Incorrigible,
nice, nice, nice.
right?
I actually
And
have a friend who's done that, so
right.
yeah,
I have
yeah,
not gone so far as to submit it, and but yeah, we'll see.
that's great. For some reason, I don't know, my mind also went to to the word sinful, but like sinful in a more bold way, like it's like it has like like a play on words too. Maybe it's yet another, yeah, like multiple meanings.
Originally, my World of Warcraft moniker was Sincorr.
Okay, all right,
IBLE, right? CynCorrigible. And then
nice.
Facebook would not accept CynCorrigible,
Huh.
SIN. So I had to
Okay.
change it to
Uh-huh.
CYN. And then
Mm,
eventually Facebook would not accept CynCorrigible. I had to eventually I had to send them my ID and
right, right, just to prove, yeah, yeah, you're
everything.
safe and everything.
Right.
Wow, wow, wow.
Right,
Interesting
right.
the things that they sometimes choose,
And
that
how that's
seem to,
changed over
yeah.
time, and how so that now I've had to consider legally changing my name to Dr. Incorrigible,
Mm,
when really, George comes from a deadbeat dad that you
mm,
know, right? And so I mean it's all kind of wrapped up in that
right, right,
me as
right.
well.
Yeah.
It's complicated.
I'll bet you'll be writing a song about that itself too, Dr. Sincorrigible. So, but anyway, on to the next little question here. So, can you tell us a little bit about your experiences as a person with a disability and as an artist with a disability?
Sure. Yeah, I didn't really know that I was a had a person. I didn't really know that I was a person with a disability growing up,
Yeah.
but I had autism, although my mother didn't really tell me.
Hmm.
However, the signs were there.
Yeah.
For example, when I was a kid, on the day that Ronald Reagan beat Jimmy Carter in the presidential election. It was 1980. And at the time, if anybody remembers, Jimmy Carter had sent around these ballot boxes and they said the kids choose the president. And so everyone got to vote. And so my kindergarten had participated and everybody voted. And I, of course, had voted for Jimmy Carter and Ronald Reagan won. And I was laying in the coat room. It was like this long, dark room. And I was laying there kind of kicking my feet and going, oh, the world, the world.
Wait a second, how old were you?
I was 5. I was in
Oh my
kindergarten,
God.
right, and
Wow.
right, and of course, and I got all of this, like, I watched
Yeah.
TV. My great uncle was Alf
Wow.
Rollins. If anybody is
Mm.
from Madison, they will know him. He was a councilman, and so I was involved
Mm.
in politics through him. We were really poor, and,
Mhm.
but I was involved in politics through him, and he owned Rollins Market, which was a convenience store in Madison,
Mm.
Tennessee. And he was a drunk, and goodness gracious, that's a whole other podcast story. But I loved him greatly, and he made me who I
Yeah.
am. And him and
Yeah.
Aunt Mary was the one that I was closest to. But I was involved in all of this, and so I knew about it. And of course, I was autistic, and I didn't know that at the time, but I was so stinking smart, and I understood it. And so I'm laying back there in the coat room, and I'm just like, oh, the world, the world. And my teacher came back there and she's trying to get me to come out and participate because we were the winner was going to eat cake and drink out of either like red
Uh-huh.
or blue Dixie cups or plastic plates, you know. And
Yeah.
of course they were going to drink out of the red, and I didn't want to eat cake or drink out of the red plastic. And so she came back there and she was going to paddle me because I wouldn't come and celebrate. And I was like, you can't do
Oh.
that. And I told her, I was like, you're part of the problem, lady.
Wow. Oh my God. Wow.
You want to talk about
Were
demand
they
avoidance?
yeah. I mean,
I
I
had
imagine their response was probably like, a state of right, like, shock and just, like, discomfort, like, "This little kid is telling me what to do." That's amazing.
But I think she also like, I also have these curls and these blue eyes and these dimples, and at the time, I had just won this beauty pageant, and I was, like, Little Miss Tennessee for baton
Oh.
twirling, and
Uh-huh,
and
uh-huh,
I
uh-huh.
just won this trophy for marching in more parades than anyone else in the state, and so I had,
Yeah, yeah.
like, this charm about me as well as, like, this penchant for just pointing out when people were wrong, you know? And so
Right,
I was
right.
just, I was just giving her what for. And I was like, you can't make me celebrate. And I said, you're part of the problem, lady. And I remember telling her, I said, he tried to sell me cigarettes and oil.
Oh my god.
And he
Wow.
did, right? He really was an actor
Yeah,
back in the day, and he really did. It was Chesterfield
right,
Cigarettes, and I forgot what
right.
oil company that he worked for, but, like, it
Yeah,
really
yeah.
did bother me as a child that he worked in these industries, and, of course, that makes me autistic AF, right?
Right,
But when so
right.
she threatened to paddle me, I got up and I ran to the principal, who really did understand me, and it was not long after that they gave me IEPs and moved me up to the 1st grade.
Wow, wow, wow.
Right. And then that 1st grade teacher, I was also bored there. Luckily, she had like this corner of her classroom with like a bathtub, and it was painted yellow and it had pillows in it and like these bookshelves with all these books. And like she would just say, go sit in the bathtub, and I would just go read books on my own.
Wow. So, yeah, I guess you used the opportunity to educate yourself and learn and just take in everything from such a young age.
Yes, yes, yes. And
And
so
then you had yeah, and then you had mentioned that over time you had other disabilities that sort of progressed and really changed the course of your life.
And so that goes all the
Yeah,
way to
yeah.
my PhD program, right?
Mhm,
So,
mhm,
like for example, in my master's program, I'm bored with the way that my master's level teachers are teaching me
mhm,
social work. So I go to the computer lab and I'm looking up the theories and I'm learning the theories from the original authors, not the way the teachers are teaching me. I'm going up and
mm,
looking at the primary authors, and then I'm looking up the primary critics. You know, I don't care what the textbooks say. I don't care what the teacher says. I want them
right,
to read
right.
the primary sources, which is, not really what graduate schools do, it's like the chewed up brainwash versions, right? And so
Right,
then by the
right.
time I get to my PhD programs, I say fuck it and start writing punk songs. That's how autism led me to a punk band, which is
Oh
a
my
really
God.
roundabout way to answer your question.
Right, right, right. Well, yeah, I recall you mentioning something about, I think it was in maybe in an article from like the National Voyager, and you said something along these lines where you were like, I realized early on in my doc program that even though I was at a rebel school of social work, the higher education process was largely still serving to brainwash me into becoming dull and irrelevant, mostly to uphold the illusion of what a scholar was supposed to be.
Oh, I love that you remember that sentence, right?
Yeah, I mean, because it really stands out, right? Because you're kind of taking the word scholar and you're almost like you're reinventing it, right? Like you're just kind of going, no, like this is not what scholar is. Like, you can wear that mohawk too. I mean, if you had another way of describing the word scholar to you now, like what would it look like? Like do you have like a different kind of way in which you could define it now?
Well, I mean, I'm a builder of knowledge,
Mhm.
and I am
Mhm.
engaging in these are strategic interventions into the structure of knowledge. And,
Mhm.
I mean,
Mm.
and I am putting forth, quite frankly, ideas for the apocalypse. And, I mean, and I do, whether it's going to be climate change, whether it's going to be some sort of environmental disaster, whether it's going to be
Yeah.
war, whether it's just going to be, overpopulation, or maybe it's just going to be peace and we just have to figure it out, just through population growth. We need new ideas, right? I mean, and so I just want different sorts of theories and ideas to be salient in people's minds. And so I put out sort of B-rated theories like Hans Falk's membership perspective, right? That's what I won the
Mhm.
International Safety Media Award for, and what
Mhm.
inspired
Mhm.
my song Quarantined Not Quarantined. And Hans Falk wrote the membership perspective, and it was he won all these awards for it, and it was kind of like a both and it said, what if we are both an individual and a member, and there's no way that we can be either an individual or a member. We are always both
Wow.
and more. And of
Right,
course,
right.
he's passed away now. And so there's
Mhm.
nobody that's really going to be driving that idea if I don't. And so
Yeah,
I've kind
yeah.
of picked that up, and so I'm trying to keep the membership perspective alive and other sort of B-rated theories. And if the world blows up, then maybe young people or whoever survives will have the membership perspective fresh on their brain from my silly punk song,
Yeah, wow. And
and think about, oh,
yeah,
one
yeah.
of us, we need to work together,
Uh-huh.
and just the way that memes survive. I don't know.
Yeah, so, are you currently working on any projects, or has there been something, like, especially meaningful for you, like, that you've been doing this year that you wanna share with us?
Yes, I am so happy to say that I am in a Nashville supergroup. I am in a band of baddie daddies, and I love them all so much. They are all so talented and so supportive of me. And we just put out a new album, and we are going to be performing live actually in Nashville on January 18th at Eastside Bowl. But the album is available now under Dr. Sin on all the streaming platforms, so you can check that out. It is called Canary. My
Mhm.
team is amazing. I've got Jerry Campbell on guitar, which he is a girl dad, and I have known him for a very long time. He actually is a barber, and he is who cut the mohawk back in March of 2012. And
Huh.
so I love him for that, right?
Wow,
Uh,
a barber and musician friend. That's
yes,
awesome. That's great to have
yes.
both.
He actually, one of his classic songs is called Werewolf Ears, and it's on an album
Oh,
called
nice.
Electric Erection. And so you should look that up. It's on all the streaming platforms too. Look up Spider Virus, Electric Erection. And back in the 90s, he had just called up this famous record producer called Steve Albini, may he
Mhm.
rest in peace, and just said, "Hey, let's make a
Mm.
record." And Steve Albini said, "Sure." And right. And so they made this record, and it's
Right.
great. And now I have a lesser rock god playing on my album. And which I love. And
Oh,
yeah. And so Jerry Campbell is an amazing guitar player, and he's singing, which is amazing. And he's singing on like 5 of my songs, and I love him so much. And
oh, very cool. Very
then I
cool.
have Bingham Barnes, who is also a Nashville treasure and a girl dad. And his daughter Ruby is beautiful and amazing. And Bingham plays in Nashville Heavy Hitters, Electric Python. And he is from, like, he booked Nashville's classic venue, the Red Room. Many locals will remember that. And he also has disabilities. He's colorblind, but he
Mhm.
runs a Grand Palace silk screen, which he has to manage colors, right? And managing,
Mm.
creating all the t shirts and stuff. And so he has all of his systems set up for that. He's an amazing human being. I love Bingham so much. And then rounding out my super group is Jeremy Frey, who is a drum powerhouse. And he is a high school drum teacher, and he has an amazing stepson. And he is, his classic indie band, Tower Defense, is his regular band, right? And so he is just such an amazing asset to have on my team. And the three of them have been wanting
Wow.
to play together, and I'm so lucky to have them.
So
Yeah,
most of these folks are from Nashville, right? And you were raised, and you said you were raised in Nashville
correct.
for the
I
most
was
part.
born and raised in
Wow.
Nashville.
So it sounds like
Yes.
it had a great, like a deep effect on maybe your music influences as well, and the way in which you kind of share your music and your creativity. Do you think that maybe just being raised in Nashville had that effect on you?
Yes, and I'll tell you, like,
Yeah.
growing up in Nashville, like, I always dated musicians, and I
Mm.
loved hanging out with musicians, and I was friends with musicians, but I never really wanted to be one. And I
Mm.
know exactly why, and that is because everyone here is so stinking talented, and it's all very business oriented, and I never felt good enough. And I
Mm.
also just watched, like, I watched these perfectly beautiful girls of friends of mine, like, get told that they were too thin, too fat, or to eat
Mhm.
less. And I watched
Yeah.
perfectly handsome men be told that they weren't stylish enough. And so,
Right,
like, I
right.
watched really brutal things happen to
Mhm.
people that
Yep.
I love. And so I
Oh,
wasn't really interested in being part of the music industry in the way that I saw it occurring in
yeah,
Nashville.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Very
But then,
stereotypical. Mm.
correct, but then I moved to Richmond, Virginia, and that is where I
Mm.
got my PhD. And so I moved there in 2011, and that scene is very queer punk, and it is very locals
Right up your
only.
alley.
Yes. And they, like, check your ID not to, like, see how old you are, but to see what your zip code is, because they don't want any out of towners.
Oh, oh,
Right.
interesting, interesting.
Right, right. And, like, they had, like, 13 house party spots, and, like, 2 out in the woods and 1 under the bridge. Like, it's just such an amazing place for, like, local punk music. And it wasn't
Mm,
about making
mm,
money, and it really made me feel like I could be a part of it, and I could see myself on the
mm.
stage,
So
right?
it's like you felt at home with your music there, like that
Correct.
was your home.
It
Yeah.
was more authentic for me, and the music could come out of me in a more authentic way. But I was born on Nashville's rock block, and
Yeah,
so
yeah,
I
yeah.
was born for this. But it was the city of Richmond, I think, that brought it out of me. And it was really the PhD program, I think, that gave me the material,
Mm,
that the stories that needed to be told, right? Because
mhm,
I was going through that program, and I was living these experiences that I knew other people were going through, right? I'm a first generation
yeah,
college student. I am a
yeah,
first
yeah.
generation of women that were able to have credit cards. I
Mm,
knew that having access to credit and being able to go to college and get that level of education were inextricably linked, right? Like, those two things went
mhm.
together. and I knew
Mm.
that, and I
Mm.
still am deeply in debt because of that degree to this day. And but
Wow.
I the only
Yeah,
way I could have gotten there, you know?
right. You had mentioned something about even through your, I don't know if it was through your PhD years or just, generally studying through college, you had lived in your car, right? Just to get
Sure,
through those years. I mean, do you want to
sure.
talk a little bit about that?
Oh, sure. I mean, it's something that when the dorms close, if you either return to a home of abuse, if your
Mm.
parents will even let you come home, or you find
Mm-hmm.
somewhere to couch surf, or you stay in a car, or you sleep on the street. That's what
Right.
kids do
Wow.
when they don't have family support. Not
Sure.
everybody's mom is maintaining a bedroom for them when they go
Right.
away to college.
Right. Right.
Not all families want
Mm.
their kids to go to college. A lot of that's first generation college students, a lot of first generation college students, their parents don't understand college. Like my mother didn't really understand why I wasn't going to the community college down the street. She didn't know what a PhD was. She didn't know what I was doing.
Mm.
She thought she had made a perfectly good life for herself at Walmart. She didn't understand why I wasn't taking that path. And quite frankly, I mean, there is probably a Walmart somewhere that's missing a really good manager, and I'd probably be
Mm.
making more money if I had taken that path and I was
Mm.
running some manager somewhere. I'd probably be making well over six figures, but it would be
Huh.
exploiting someone else's labor, doing
Wow.
so.
Wow. 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 I
And I'd
mean,
rather be at this HBCU teaching these
right.
students, singing these punk songs.
I mean, it's, you know, was there ever a moment in your mind like where you felt like just giving up, like, telling yourself, okay, I'm living in a car. I need to buy food. I need a shower. I, need to head to class,
Mhm.
concentrate on my studies, pass my exams. Like, this is fucking wearing me down. Like, I think I need to just stop and maybe, yeah, like, go work somewhere else and just, it's just like, I guess what I'm saying is, how did you remain so fiercely resilient through all of it? Like, what was there any one thing, or maybe one friend or one person, or just something, or that just kept you kind of somewhat like, okay, I'm almost there, you know, just
Well,
inspiring.
I think that it is just my drive to get there,
Yeah, yeah.
and I've just always wanted to, like, and I told myself a long time ago, and and I swear I was just standing outside one day, and I was just like, okay, I don't know. I grew up in a single parent household, right, with a single mom. My parents got divorced when my dad had mental health issues. He finally had the
Hmm.
decency to leave when I was 9, and
Hmm.
so my mom, raised us after that, and
Yeah.
and I said, it's like I don't know exactly what it's going to look like, but I want to help single parents take better care of their kids, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I said, I don't know what it's going to look like, but that's what I want to do. And I just kind of said that to the universe, and I said, take me there, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I ended up, I was already in a master's in social work program at the time. And so I was already kind of on that journey, but then I ended up in the PhD program. And now I'm
Mm.
a professor at an HBCU where a large proportion of my students are, in fact, single parents from low income families that
Mm.
are first generation college students that are
Wow.
literally
Wow.
fighting for their lives, trying to get better jobs to improve the plight of their families.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I think back sometimes to that day where I said to the universe that that's what I wanted to do. And I consider
Amazing.
I am so lucky, and like I have, gone through it, sure,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I am
Yeah.
so lucky to be where I am at. And
Yeah. Yeah.
I have gone through hard times, but I have been on a fabulous, wonderful, amazing adventure. And right.
Wow. Yeah, that's great that you can look at it like an adventure, half glass full. Right, right. Yeah.
Now I do wish that public policies were better because
Yeah.
I am injured and my life will be cut short because of that adventure. And
Mm,
that is unfair, right? There is a disparity in that adventure and
sure.
my lack of access to adequate food and health care.
Yeah.
And there is a
Yeah.
disparity to that. Part of my disability is related to the wear and
Yeah.
tear of how harsh my life has been. And
And
that
that's
is
what
not
you sing
fair.
about. And that is
Correct.
that is your art. Yeah. You
Correct.
talk
And so
about the policies. Yeah.
yeah, we need to make a
Mhm.
world that can
Mhm.
create cool people without torturing them to death. All of this wasn't necessary.
Right. 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 Right.
Come on.
So speaking of that, you have a new song among many other amazing songs that I listen to, but you had mentioned something called Devolution Revolution, and maybe we'll be playing a clip shortly. Do you want to give a little intro on this song
Oh,
that you
yes.
released?
This song actually has Jerry Campbell singing on it. So anybody that knows him will love this song, the classic Spider Virus voice, which I love. And I wrote this song actually about advising undergraduate students at TSU. So anyone that works at an HBCU or attends an
Mm,
HBCU hopefully will understand these lyrics in a profound way. And if you don't know what's going on, there are 13 public land grant HBCUs in the country. They
mhm,
were formed in 1890 by a federal land grant act when
mhm.
the predominantly white institutions could not prove that racism was not a factor in their admission and graduation rates. And so
Huh.
the federal government forced these 13 states, which of course are all in the Southeast, to
Yeah.
form an HBCU land grant. And a land grant university is one that is required to work on agricultural purposes. And so they're practical universities. And so they will focus on practice based disciplines and services to the state. In Tennessee, the University of Tennessee institution, I got my master's there
Uh-huh.
in social work. And then TSU, or Tennessee State University, is the HBCU land grant that was set up in 1890. And that's where I work now.
Wow. Wow.
And so all 13 of these HBCUs have suffered some form of underfunding schemes by their state government ever since 1890. There's an 1890 foundation. You can Google those words and look that up to support those, that tells the story of those, and you can support those schools and learn more about them. But it's totally systemic racism, and it is
Mhm.
they're kind of secretly maintaining, not kind of, but specifically maintaining a separate and unequal system of education for these public land grant universities. And
Mhm.
I found out about it in 2019, a year after coming to TSU. And I will tell you that these are the most deserving students that I have ever worked with. And I love them so much. And when I was teaching in other schools, you might get, I mean, a lot of your students are there to drink and have a good time. They're there because
Mhm.
their students, their parents expected them to go to school,
Perhaps
right?
privileged. Right. Right. Right.
I mean,
Sure. Sure.
or for different reasons, right? And the
Uh-huh.
students at TSU are there because they are fighting for their lives, right? I mean, and
Mhm.
the sacrifices that they make to be there, it's just a
Mhm.
whole different purpose that they have,
Right.
and
Right.
and and they generally are coming from poorly served schools, and so they may have lower test scores and they may have more disabilities,
So
right?
they're fighting harder, even harder.
Correct.
Right.
They're
Right. Right.
more likely to experience life stressors like being evicted, or having, those greater stressors. So they're more
Yeah.
likely to
Yeah.
drop
Yeah.
out and have those greater struggles. Right. And
Yeah.
so, it's a high need school, but then they've been getting underfunded. And so
Mm.
all of this has been coming out that pretty much at least since 1950, which is
Mhm.
as far back as the records that we can
Mhm.
show and
Mhm.
prove, that TSU has been underfunded anywhere from 500 million to 2.1 billion. It's
Yeah.
unclear exactly how many funding streams are affected. It's still to be determined, but
Uh-huh.
it's a
Uh-huh.
whole lot of money that the state has not given TSU, where they have been overfunding UT, the
Mhm.
PWI, and
Mhm.
underfunding TSU, and then essentially setting them up to fail and then laughing at them when they don't perform as well as the white
It's
institution.
yeah, wow, wow, wow. It's
It's
kind of amazing how backward it is, how backward it is.
it's revolting.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so
Speaking of which, revolting. You know what? Why don't we dive right into listening to this clip right now? So
yes.
here it is. We're going to listen to a clip called "Devolution Revolution."
What will you take? What have you heard? How have you been? Tell me the word. Is the money there? Have you been purged? Has your refund been returned? Are your nights undisturbed? I can feel you there on the verge. From the part to the whole, we can take control with rock and roll. We can take control. Follow the rule to survive. Break the rule to thrive. Follow the rule to survive. Break the rule to thrive. It's devolution, baby. We can do as we please. It's revolution, baby. You're your own trustee. It's evolution, baby. Let's kill the disease. It's devolution, baby. We can do as we please. It's evolution, baby. We can do as we please. It's revolution, baby. You're your own trustee. It's evolution, baby. Let's kill the disease. It's devolution, baby. We can do as we please.
I think your work is so, yeah, so badass and punk. And sometimes I think I told you it reminds me of this one random YouTube song that I found called the Ping Pong Song.
Oh, yes.
And I don't even know this band. I forget their name. I think something like, I don't know, Operator Please or something. Anyway, yeah, it just has this. Anyway, anybody who's out there listening, please go listen to this song and the entire album, including you had mentioned the new release or upcoming release, or it has been released already. The Canary.
Canary is released. It is out on all the streaming platforms under the artist profile Dr. Sin. And if you go to graduatesrise.com, then there is a link tree that will take you out to everything. All of our old stuff is under the artist profile for Graduates Rise on the streaming profile. All of our new stuff is under Dr.
Yeah, well, congratulations on the release. Sounds
Thank
super exciting. And
you.
also, I think you get a happy birthday because that's when
Yeah.
you're performing.
Yes.
Yes, can I say, like how old you are and what kind of beautiful celebration? That's up to you, but it sounds
Yes.
wonderful.
January 18th will be my 50th birthday, and we will be celebrating at Eastside Bowl on January 18th, 2025. We will be performing live. That is actually the first live performance that I have done a full live set since 2019, just for health reasons.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
hopefully I'm not going to vomit or fall off the stage. And so everybody, please come out and cheer me on.
Well, congratulations. I wish I could come out there and cheer you on. It sounds amazing. Hopefully, maybe it'll be recorded too, so people can come to listen to it on YouTube.
I will do my best to get that. The venue does not have a setup for live streaming, but I will do my best to get a live stream set up.
So, I had read also that, well, I think you also mentioned it before. You use punk rock, confessional poetry, and explicit criticism in an attempt to demystify politics and systems of higher education. I'm wondering, like, since you've been doing this for so many years now, like, have you seen any positive changes, like, in your community? Like through just the incredible work, that you've been immersed in. Like, have you seen anything good
Well,
come out of it yet?
well, I do live in Tennessee, where, of course, things feel very bleak right now. And, we do have a Republican supermajority. But I do see a lot of hope in the Tennessee Three, right, where we have had this resurgence with Justin Jones and Justin Pearson and Gloria Johnson, and a resurgence of young people that are standing up to the Republican supermajority. I
Mm.
am excited to see what is going to happen in January and whether or not we are going to have any progress with gun control,
That's a
and
biggie. Yeah,
whether or
yeah.
not we are going to see any movement on women's rights or other civil rights in the state of Tennessee.
Mhm.
And so I have hope, right? And
Yeah, yeah.
and I am in this for the long game. And I'm a
Yeah.
policy teacher. And so I have to always teach everyone to always look for residual value. And you
Mm,
may not make a win every day,
yeah.
but you always look for the residual value and you reap every single bit of it and you save it and you use it for the next day,
Right,
because
right.
this is a movement, not a moment, right? And so these things
Mm,
are going to endure, and it's not really about winning or losing. It's about living and
mm,
surviving and thriving
mm,
and moving humanity past the binary of winning and losing.
mhm, mhm.
And that's really where I would like for humanity to get, right? And like, when are we going to get there?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so I don't know. Like, and sometimes it feels very bleak, but in the same relentless part of me that is not going to give up when I'm sitting in my car homeless trying to finish my PhD, I'm not going to give up now either,
yeah,
and I ask that the rest of humanity doesn't either, and I don't think we will. We haven't ever
yeah,
before,
yeah,
and I
yeah.
don't think we ever will.
Well, I mean, this might sound cliche, but you are certainly a beacon of hope. You are that light, and I really hope, you continue forward in the good fight. You are absolutely an inspiration, certainly to me, as a disabled performer and a disabled artist. So I appreciate what you're doing.
There
Um,
could be no greater honor, so I appreciate that,
yeah.
and knowing that helps me shine bright.
Yeah, yeah, right. Exactly. It's a give and take. Yeah. We constantly have to try to be supportive of one another, especially as you said, in this sort of bleaker days right now. And yeah, I know that our listeners also would like to hear about the arts education that you received, or if you received an arts education. Did you study anywhere?
No, not really. I mean, just basic public education. I mean, I did exist at a time when that was still part of public school. Like, I think a lot of that has been
Right.
cut now.
The arts in school. Who would have
Right,
thought?
right. But I did get that, and I appreciated it and I loved it.
Yeah.
But I'm what you would call self-taught, right? I watch a lot of
Mm,
documentaries. Like, a couple that I've watched recently that I would recommend about artists with disabilities would be The Punk Singer, which is about Kathleen Hanna,
mm,
and 5'2", which is about Lady Gaga.
mm.
Kathleen Hanna has Lyme disease, and Lady Gaga has migraine and fibromyalgia. Both of those are great documentaries. And then I listen to a lot of music, right? And oh my God, the Cure album. Who is listening to Songs of a Lost World right now? Hopefully, everyone.
All
I think
right.
we can
I got to
claim
add that to
this
my
as
list.
disabled, right? But I think that we
Yeah.
can claim this as disabled just because of his age, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But surely he needs some form of an accommodation, right? Even if it's just from Ticketmaster for mental health, right? Like, you can't charge me that fee because it drives me crazy. I don't know if anybody's following that, but Robert, call me if you need my help to make that argument. Um, but yeah, I really just get my arts education from the world, right? And just learning and watching from other artists. And I Google stuff. Like, when I first started writing poems, my friend Tristan, who is an amazing artist from Nashville, yelled at me one day and was like, "Cynthia, you're a writer. You're never going to be happy until you write. Just write something down already."
Oh,
Right. And so I was like,
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
"Okay." And
It's
I
that
wrote a
support
poem
from
that
your
night.
friend. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, and it was horrible. Like, I showed it to this person I was dating, and they laughed at me, because it was really bad. But then I didn't stop. I wrote another one, and I showed it to them, and then they were like, "Oh, wait, you're getting better," and I kept going, and right? And then I looked up poetry forms, right? Like, what is a haiku, and what does that
Mhm.
mean, and what is a sonnet? And
Wow, wow, wow. So you really studied it kind of like a science in a way.
I did.
Which is leads me to the next question about, you'd mentioned something super interesting to me because I'm still pretty new to something called AI, which is kind of like a really big deal right now, but I didn't know it was a big deal even with the way in which you are connecting AI with your music. Like, you want to mention a little bit about some of the work you had done with that?
Yes, I am an AI fellow at TSU,
Yeah,
and so what that means is TSU being an HBCU, we are leaders really in making sure that minorities are part of the discussion when AI tools are being developed and utilized. Because AI, it scares a lot of people. It's going to
mm,
displace a lot of things, right? It's really just one of those technologies that is going to change things. And so it's
right.
about who's controlling it, who's benefiting from it, who's using it. And so I got involved with it musically. I'm just using it right now. I'm only playing around with it for music because I love my band so much that there is
Mhm.
no way I'm going to replace Jerry, Bingham, and Jeremy with robots. No way at all. However,
Yeah,
music videos is something that I really cannot afford to bring in graphic designers right now. It also takes a lot of time and energy to
right.
conceptualize a whole music video.
Right,
And
right.
sometimes the artists just don't really want to do all of that. I really just want to put out a visualizer video with my songs to make them more engaging to my audience, to
Yeah.
keep their attention, and to make it more accessible on YouTube because it's a free platform, right?
I
And
think it's yeah,
so
I think it's super innovative. Yeah, especially for me, I kept thinking, and I mean, I don't know if this is something that you've come across, but I have noticed that, in the last couple of years, many mainstream artists and many neurotypical artists, they don't fully support AI in the arts. And I'm hearing that there's been a lot of pushback on AI, like, ruining creativity and that it might be even, taking away from an artist's process. But at the same time, especially when I saw your work and your videos, which I think are phenomenal, I have noticed the opposite within the disability artists community. Like, it actually appears that AI has been, if anything, a kind of miracle in a way, almost even, I'd say, an absolute necessity in a way, right? Like, because it's this kind of science that's really been like a supportive piece that actually strengthens disabled artists. And so that's kind of what I got when I saw your YouTube video and the way in which you described it, especially with your disability. I think it sounds incredible. So, like, but I still feel like, yeah, right. It's a sense perhaps that, I don't know, should we be embracing AI more, right?
I think with I mean, it's definitely a groundbreaking technology. And with
Yeah.
any groundbreaking technology, if you look back, I mean, it's a paradigm shifting technology. And like the telephone or the radio or the internet, and they're always going to be early adopters, late adopters,
Right,
and
right,
there's going to
right.
be, and it's going to disrupt things. And so I definitely support ethical boundaries. I support consent with AI. I support awareness and making sure that people know that they are. I don't that I do support deep fakes because satire is needed, but
Mm.
you should not be deep faking people for porn without their consent, right?
Right,
but
right,
but
right.
you but I do think that you should be able to deep fake for political satire,
Yeah, yeah.
as long as it's known, and like those sort of subtleties are we're going to have to
It's
figure out as
complicated.
humans.
Right,
It's
right, right.
complicated,
It's
right?
so complicated. I feel like it's a whole other segment in itself. But
It is.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah,
a
yeah.
whole other
It's a
segment, but
lot.
but it,
It's a
but
lot.
again, it's about who is part of the conversation. And so I'm so thankful that I'm at
Mm,
TSU, so that me as a person with disabilities can be there with other minorities as part of this HBCU, to be part, to have a voice and a seat at that table, right?
mhm, mhm.
Because that's
Yeah,
what's
yeah,
important.
yeah, yeah. Okay, and that brings us finally to the last question here. Might you have some advice you'd like to share with some of our younger disabled artists out there who might just be starting out?
Oh, goodness. Yeah, I would say don't be afraid to put out an imperfect product. My first records are far from perfect, and you can really look at my new record and see growth. And I'm proud of that, and I'm okay with that. And when I put out, my next record, I think that you will see more growth from what the one I just put out, right? And that's okay. I think that's natural. And that's okay. And then I would also say to make sure that you learn some music business basics and
Mm.
protect your ownership right. Even if you don't believe in capitalism, it believes in you. And if you ever do get an opportunity to license your work one day or to sell, if someone wants to use your work in a commercial or something like that, they're going to need that paperwork. And so
Yeah.
you should make sure that you protect your master. You should also stay alert, because if you are good at what you do, people are likely going to try to exploit you. There are people that prey on people in the music industry, and especially people with disabilities. We are money looking for thieves. And be careful, set your boundaries, and don't be afraid to walk away from a toxic person or a toxic environment. Find people that you trust, find people that you know will support you, and make sure that you take them with you to places, right? And
Yeah, yeah. So sorry
for
we have to wrap this up. Yeah, yeah. But thank you so much, Dr. Sin or Dr. Cynthia George and Dr. Sin. It's really been such a pleasure having you on our show. Thank you so much for making the time today to speak with us. And again, to follow more of their work, you can find them at www.graduatesrise.com. And also, they have a link tree /graduatesrise. Thank you all for tuning into the Able Voices podcast, and please do join us next time to hear the latest on these wonderful up and coming artists living with disabilities who are currently making incredible change and impact right now in the creative industry. And here's to looking towards a future where disability and arts culture is simply just part of the norm. My name is Rivky, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you
All
so
right.
much.
Able Voices is a production of the Berkeley Institute for Accessible Arts Education, led by me, Dr. Rhoda Bernard, the founding managing director. It is produced by Daniel Martinez del Campo. The intro music is by Kai Levin, and our closing song is by Sebastian Batista. Kai and Sebastian are students in the arts education programs at the Berkeley Institute for Accessible Arts Education. If you would like to learn more about our work, find us online at berkeley.edu/BIAAE or email us at BIAAE@berkeley, that's LEE.edu.